up, y'all? This your girl Samantha, and it's my podcast, Naturalize. I know it's been a minute, and I haven't been up here as much as I would have liked, just simply because I'm just trying to juggle, the time that I have been allotted in this season. Um, I've been on TikTok more than I've been up here, but that was not my intentions. My intentions was to be consistent with this as much as I could. And see, the good thing about God is that He honors your hard work. We be thinking, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to put this out, I got to put that out. I'm going to commit to 5 days a week at the gym, but then you only show up for two. But when you show up for them two, you give it your all. You know what I mean? And God honors that. So the things we be thinking we got to do X, Y, and Z amount of times or whatever, God is like, don't put that pressure on yourself. Just do your best. And when you can do what you can do, give it your all. And so, even though I have not been up here as much as I would like, because I'm still trying to adjust to having a baby, and it's a lot, honestly, if I'm being for real, and so I've been on TikTok more just because I don't get a lot of time to where I can sit and record a 30, 45 minute, hour long podcast, which I'm not going to let that discourage me. And don't let it discourage you that whatever it is in this season of your life that you want to show up for more, but you're only able to make it 2 times a week or whatever the case may be. Don't allow that to make you feel like you're not giving it your all and that you should be doing more. You could do the best that you can with what you have, and that's all that God honors, and that's all that God asks of us. We be sitting here putting these things and this pressure and all this stuff on us that God is like, I didn't tell you to do all of that. I just told you to show up, do your best, and give it your all. You know what I mean? And so I know I've missed the podcast and I've missed it a lot, but I've been on TikTok. So again, I always drop my information below in the description box. So if you want to, get you a quick fix throughout the week, and maybe you don't have time to sit and listen to a podcast or whatever, but you got 5 minutes out of your day and you need something to help you stay anchored in the season that you're in, I always leave my information in the description box. So if you need to, hit me up on TikTok, or go get what you need off of my account. You hear the baby in the back, so if you see me stepping in or out, that's why I'm just trying to juggle everything I can, because I just felt like I didn't want to wait another day to try to get this podcast out. It wasn't that I needed to get a podcast out. It was more so I just didn't want the word to pass me by, and then I couldn't give you the full revelation of all that God was trying to give me to give you. So I want to jump in it while we can and get moving. Before I say that, I do want to say that, with this calling that I have, which is to show people what a process looks like, it can become a lot sometimes, if I'm being real. I'm very real, transparent, and like authentic. I'm just me, right? Like, you see my hair, you see what I got going on, like today, like I don't want to be aesthetically pleasing. I just want to do what God has called me to do. So if that is on my heart so heavy that I got to show up looking, barely brush my hair, blah, 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 that's totally fine, because I'm not worried about that. My mission, my assignment is to bring people to Christ. And so that is what I'm doing. And with this calling and showing people what a process looks like, I have a lot of moments where I'm like, God, I don't really want to talk about it. And God is like, I know you don't want to talk about it, but remember, like, I gave you this assignment because I knew you can handle it. I knew it was a lot of people who don't talk about the things that you willing to talk about. Like, one thing about me with God is that He knows I don't desire anything other than what He has called me to do. I'm out of that point in my life where I need to go get a fix here or try to do it this way or that way. If it don't consume God, I don't want to be in the mix. If it ain't about what God got going for me, I'm not down. And I'm thankful for that, because it takes a lot to be there, to not desire anything of the world, to not be easily uprooted, to not be persuaded. You got to stand on business literally 24/7 about what God has told you, even when other people don't see it or don't agree. And so that's why He's giving me that calling to show people what a process looks like. I also have a few sick kids home today. So, Matters up. Okay, so I got a few sick kids as well. So I'm literally trying to juggle. So if y'all hear them in the background, just let them do their thing so we can do our thing as well. But it just comes with the process, and the calling that I have is, to show people the things that people don't talk about. And I'm thankful for that because, like I was just saying, I don't desire to be in the world. I just want to do what God has called me to do. I know who I am. I know whose I am. I know what my purpose is. I know where I'm going. And honestly, I don't care about what people think about me. I literally don't care. And I've realized people be so easily to criticize what you got going on and what other people got going on. And it's because they life be spiraling out of control to the point they don't even know what they got going on. So it's easier to shift my focus onto you and what y'all got going on versus what I really got going on, because I don't even know what I got going on. But y'all living an out loud life. Y'all showing it. Y'all doing this and that. So it's easier for me to comment and make, assumptions or whatever the case may be. So I'm thankful that I don't care what people think about me. I don't care. I know who I am. Okay, period. Like, and for real, eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard. So you just following the process as I'm revealing it, as I'm revealing it, as I'm living it, and as I'm showing it and broadcasting it to the world. So where I am now is not where I'm going. Okay. So just as I will see, people will see too. And that's the goodness of God, is to show you that, oh, if it happened for her, it can happen for me, because that's my only desire. My only desire is for people to come to Christ. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm not trying to make you feel less than. I'm not trying to tell you you a hot mess because of what you got going on. No, I ain't saying none of that. What I'm simply saying is the things that you're trying to feel in your life from things of the world, it will never fill you and satisfy you the way that Jesus will fill you and satisfy you. So I want people to come to Jesus so that they can see that, oh my gosh, I never knew I had such freedom in God. And I never thought that something would feel me the way it feels me and gives me everything I need, even when my world seems to be spiraling out of control. So I ain't gonna lie though, I have my moments where I'm like, God, oh, I gotta talk about that too. He's like, I know you don't want to, but the goodness of God too is knowing that I've been on this process to where even when I don't want to do something, if my God said I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, because I only desire to please God. So if he tell me to do it, I'm gonna do it, because obedience is how you get where you're going. You don't reach purpose, you don't reach these callings, you don't reach this level of success, and you're still being disobedient. The world bless folks too. The enemy give his people everything they need to. So don't believe that because it's fruitful, that it's good fruit and that it's God fruit. Okay. So you can be obedient to the enemy too, and he'll bless you. I'm being obedient to God so that I can do what God has called me to do. And so I know sometimes I'm like, I don't really want to talk about that, but I'll do it. If you said, if you want it, I'll do it. And so I want to jump and let's get going. And I want to ask you before, hey buddy, hey, y'all calm down a little. Calm down a little. I want to ask you, if God gives you something that he promised you, or something you've longed for, something you've worked hard for, something that aligns with his will for your life, if he gives you that, do you trust God enough to give it back to him if he asks for it in return? And I want to reference how that is a thing, because Abraham and Sarah, it was a thing for them, right? God told Sarah and Abraham they was going to have a baby. They at one point got tired of waiting because, oh my God, we getting older, we ain't getting no younger. We got Hagar, which is, Sarah's and them slave. We'll just have a baby through her, right? And so they go and had this baby, but Sarah and Hagar got little issues going on, because Hagar like, this my baby. But Sarah like, but you had that baby for me because I'm your owner, I'm your master, and that's my baby. And then it became so much that Hagar took her son and went on. And see, the thing about it too is sometimes with that situation, you are going to have to wait. With something like that, it's like we rush and try to help God be God. And so when we get something that's fruit, it's not fulfilling in the way that we thought it was going to be. And it was because it was prematurely done, and it wasn't something that God wanted us to do, right? So you're left unsatisfied even though it produced fruit. So Sarah had these things that, she thought, well, these things that matter to her as a mom. So when she didn't get that fulfillment when Hagar had that baby, she, even though they had a baby, she still had some form of a void. And so, you know, they go or whatever, and God is like, y'all gonna have a baby. And Sarah and Abraham like, we owe. Like, you should have did this years ago. We owe now. We ain't having no babies. It was so funny to Sarah laughed. Like, Shorty was cracking up. And so anyway, the promise was coming through the kid that Sarah and Abraham had, not Hagar and Abraham. So that son wasn't even blessed, and imagine us going here doing something at the time, and it's producing fruit, but it's not even blessed because God is like, that was not even how I was choosing to do that. That's not even it. I was over here, you was over there. But so, hey, calm down. So, so the blessing was coming through the son that Sarah and Abraham had. And so they like, we ain't having no baby, we old. They end up having a baby, right? And the same baby, as it grew up a little bit, was the same promise that God gave him, right? God gave him that promise. They had that promise. It came to fruition. And then God said, I need that back. I need you, Abraham, to sacrifice your son. The one I told you the blessing came through. The one I told you was going to have after you had another son that won't even really bless. After y'all old. I need it back. And Abraham was like, I'm down. Like, nope, no questions asked. And see, I'm to that point in my life right now to know, hey, shh. Look, all that coughing and stuff, y'all finna get up out of here. And see, I'm to that point right now where, it's like, God, if you ain't in it, I don't want it. If you need it back, come get it. I tell you all the time, like, I'm just to that point now because I just don't desire anything other than what God desires for me. Because when we realize we be carrying unnecessary stuff, because God, like, I didn't even ask you to carry that. You carrying that. Like, that ain't that weight heavy, because that's not even weight I put on you. That's weight you put on you. And so I'm like, to that point where I'm like, Abraham, like, okay, God, if you need it back, cool. And see, Abraham trusted God like that. He was like, oh yeah, my God, cool. Like, my God gave it to me. My God gon' want it back. So cool. Abraham went up there with Isaac. Isaac don't even know what's going on. He don't even know he finna be out of here, right? As Abraham was about to kill him, God was like, no, like, I just want to see, if you trust me. And then boom, Abraham and Isaac was able to come back down the mountain together. So that's where I got that reference from that is biblical. There's certain things in your life that God will give you, and he's going to ask for it back to see if you trust him. And see, sometimes we will think that because it came from God, that God not going to ask for it back. So we be like, oh, this is the goodness of God, right? This is the goodness of God. God gave me this. I prayed for it, fasted for it, stayed 10 toes down for it, served them hard seasons, did everything for it, right? He not going to ask me for that back. This is my livelihood. I'm successful now. I'm making all this kind of money. I'm on these platforms. Like, God not gonna ask for me that back. That's good. God's goodness. See, sometimes we be thinking that that's only a thing when it's bad. Oh, but because when it's bad, we be like, oh God, come get it. I'll leave it on the front porch for you. You don't even gotta come in the house. I'll put it outside by the road. You just drive by, pick it up, and keep it moving. Like, come get it. But when it's going good, we be like, whoa, God, you can't get this back. No, like, like, I know you gave it to me, and, I trust you, but, like, I don't know about all that. Like, I don't know. You be a little hesitant. And so I've realized that in this season of my life that God don't just want to ask you for things back that he's giving you when it's bad. He'll ask for something back even when it's going good to see if you trust him or not. Do you trust me to still bless your life even if that's the thing that's providing for you? And see, we don't think that idolizing is a thing, right? God gives us good things, right? God will give us some good stuff. And we be like, oh, well, God gave me this job. And sometimes God will ask for it back when he sees that it's causing a division in your life. It's not always because God didn't want Isaac to punish Abraham. That ain't why he was taking Isaac. He was trying to see if Abraham's faith was where he said it was. Like, it's kind of like put your money where your mouth at. Like, let me see if you really faithful like you say you are. And so you're gonna have to wait, Papa. And so that's not why he was taking Isaac. So sometimes that thing that God asking you for, he just want to see if your faith is where your faith is. Because if when God give you something good, it's like, okay, well, I gave you a job. Sometimes God will take it from you because he see it's causing some issues in your life. So the thing that God blessed you with, if you two do not stop it. I don't want to hear it. The thing that God blessed you with, whether, let's say it's a job. Sometimes you can get so consumed in that job that you take your focus off of God giving it to you and then it turned into your God. And see, sometimes we be thinking like idolizing stuff be harder than what it really is. We be like, oh, well, I ain't worshiping no other God. I ain't got no altar built. I don't got that. Like, I'm praying to my God. Yeah, but sometimes the way we view idolizing and the way God view idolizing, two different ways. Anything that come before God, idolizing. Anything that take the thought before God, idolizing. Anything that is dependent upon more than God, idolizing. And that's why you constantly have to deny your flesh and say, God, reveal to me the things inside of me that are not like you, that are not clean to you, that are not what you need for me to be consumed of. Because here I am just loving the job you gave me. I'm blessed, big blessed. Be able to pay my bills, put some money in my savings, blah, blah, blah. Y'all got 2 more times and y'all getting up out of here. Like, I'm blessed and blah, blah, blah. So, you just be thinking, well, dang, I'm just showing up, doing what God asked me to do. But our focus just takes a slight shift sometimes. That's how the enemy is too. Like, it don't gotta be no big curve. You literally can just pivot to a little to the right. It don't gotta be you gotta make a U-turn, turn back around, blah, 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 blah. It could be a pivot. And now your focus is off of God and the job has become your God. So now it's, I gotta work. Whole time you're not even paying your tithes and your offering on the money you making. So let's be real. The money is already cursed. You're not even blessed like you thought, like you thought you was, because you don't even pay your tithes and your offering. So then it says, and so then you go and it's like, I gotta go to work. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. Well, work. It has now replaced everything concerning God. God didn't give you that job for you to be dependent upon that job. God gave you that job as a resource to help you navigate in the season that you're in. I'm the source is what God is saying. I'm the source. If it won't that as a resource, I could have made it somewhere else. It could have been somebody walking along the side of the street. It didn't have to be that job. I just chose to give you that as an avenue, as a resource. But you've turned it into your God, and so now that's your thing. And so we idolize these things, and so God knows that when it becomes a distraction for us sometimes, he'll ask for it back just to see if you trust him. And so I wanted to ask you, are you at that point in your life right now where if God gave you something he promised you, or something you desire, something you felt God had given you because you were faithful, you were deserving, or whatever the case may be, would you give it back to God if he asked for it back? Do you trust him enough to give it back? And see, I am at that point in my life where even if it's good, God, come and get it if that's what you want. Because God, if you gave it to me, if you already gave it to me, why would you not give me better? When you realize God don't never subtract to give you back, the same number or the same amount that he gave you when he first subtracted. He only multiplies. Like, he's not subtracting to say, so he's not going to say, give me $10 and until Friday, and I give you $10 back. He gonna say, give me $10 and I get back to you on Friday. When he get back to you on Friday, it's gonna be $20, right? That plus interest. God don't never just cut you even. He literally multiplies it. That's just like faith. Faith is never like it. Faith is never like equaled out. It's always multiplied. It's always grown. So that's why faith never comes to this standstill where it's like, okay, that's it. We don't reach no more amount of faith. No, it's multiplied season after season after season after season. So God is a multiplier. So I'm at this point in my life where if God asks for it back, I'm gonna do it because I don't desire to try to do no math for myself. We literally be sitting here putting two pennies together, trying to make $1. I don't want that. If we have that access to where we could give it to God and God would do his big one for us, why would I not allow myself to experience that? So if God asks me for something, I'm gonna give it back to him. And see, sometimes we be thinking too that when God gives us something good, we'll be like, we'll misdefine good, right? Because our good, God's good, two different goods. And see, sometimes, and I'm getting at this because sometimes we think God only give us good things if it's producing things the way we desire for it to be produced. So we could be like, oh, God gave me this good job and it's allowed me to take my family on vacation and it's that and it's this. But then it could be like, well, God gave me this car and then it started breaking down and it blah 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 blah. It's two different versions of good because we think good is dependent upon the outcome when God is like, no, that's not how I define good. Good is I send something your way. It might not produce what you was thinking it was going to produce, but it produced something inside of you that you need for where you are going. So sometimes God will give you a car, it'll break down, but during this time your faith was grown. You were able to ask people for help because you were stubborn in areas that you was like, oh, I ain't gonna never ask nobody for help. Now in this season of your life, you've had to ask people for help because you can't get to work without asking. In this moment of your life, you ain't been nowhere that you weren't supposed to be because you didn't have no transportation to get there. So you couldn't hang with them friends that I was trying to separate you from. You can't be in the club because I'm trying to call you out of that. So in that same car that broke down, you anything. I'm just thinking of things off the top of my head, but like we'll be like, oh my God, this car broke down. God gave me this, and it's just it's just broke down. Now I can't even use it. So we think, oh, it won't good. Whole time God used that one car to develop characteristic traits inside of you that you're going to need for where you're going. Because if you can't ask nobody for help, then what good use are you going to be when somebody asks you for help? You know what I mean? Like your faith is going to be grown. So when I'm trying to put you in some seasons where you need that level of faith that's up here, you going to have it because I put you in a situation that made you get that faith up here because before we got up here, you was down here. So that was good. It was good, but sometimes we are dependent upon the outcome so bad to the point we'll be like, oh, it wasn't from God. It won't good. Or good, God, I don't see how this is good. And so sometimes will you wait? So sometimes, like I was just saying, we'll miss God because sometimes it's our good and God's good is not defined as good. And so I'm getting that revelation in this season of my life because I'm in this marriage and I love my marriage, don't get me wrong. But it's in a really tough spot right now. And I'm okay saying that because I know that this is the process that people don't talk about. Shh, Summer, give her milk. This is the process that people don't talk about. People only want to talk about the things that are pretty. They only want to talk about the things that are good, a pure good, and our definition of good. And so I'm in this rough place right now where, things are kind of just not going the way I thought they were going to go. And if I'm being real, I'm not even really sure of the outcome of what this looks like for me right now in my life. Um, and the enemy wanted me to believe that because my marriage is in this rough part right now where I don't even know how it'll turn out, he wanted me to believe that because it's not producing the results I thought it was going to produce, it is not good and it was not God. And so sometimes in your life, when God gives you good, you'll think because it didn't produce what I wanted it to produce, I couldn't have heard God right. This couldn't have been from God. This couldn't be. I might have done something that landed me here, and I'm just now seeing it. Sometimes God's gonna give you something again to produce characteristic traits inside of you that would have only come if he put you in that specific situation that you are in right now. And so I'm telling myself these things, and God has given me these revelations in this season of my life. Hey, mama. This season of my life, because we have to be okay with things not turning out the way we would have wanted them to turn out. And I say that because sometimes when we don't get the outcomes we're looking for, we'll sit here and try. And this is not just with a marriage. It's with anything. It's with a job. It's with a friendship. It's with whatever. You'll be like, oh, I just got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do that. Whole time God is like, you've done all that you could do. There's nothing left for you to do. You've done everything. But because it didn't produce the outcome you were looking for, you still believe that there is something left for you to do when all you have done was already completed. It's it. That's it. It's nothing left. It's nothing left. You got to be okay with God's ending being the ending that you desire to have, even if it does not look the way you wanted it to look. And I'm in this part right now where I'm like, God, I'm okay. I'm okay if this doesn't work out because I know I heard from you. And the enemy will try to make you feel like, oh, don't you say you heard from God? Like God, your God honors marriage. Your God says you aren't even able to divorce. Hey, give her that. You'll start allowing the enemy to play with your mind and trying to, he just wants to taunt you though, right? Because the moment he can get you to question and compromise like he did Adam and Eve, they knew they heard God say, do not eat off this tree. Don't do it. Don't do it. He was like, oh, well, your God wouldn't give you a garden and then not let you eat off this tree. Like, why would he do that? They compromised and then boom. Sin came in the world and now they was everywhere except inside of the will of God. That's how the enemy desires for you to do. Question the thing that you thought question the thing you heard, but will now allow yourself to believe maybe I didn't hear it because it's not producing the results that you wanted it to produce. And because you have to be able to define your good from God's good. Every good thing from God is good, but every good thing from God does not turn out the way you define good. And so in this season of my life, the enemy is trying to say, hey, oh, well, your marriage is failing. It ain't even been 2 years. Like, dang, girl, something wrong with you, ain't it? Like, he'll try to do these things because he knows my history. And see, mama, he knows my history. And when the enemy knows your history, he uses the thing he knows. Why would he criticize or try to attack you in an area you don't struggle in? Why would he do that? That's not the way he operates. He finds your weaknesses and then he uses them against you. My weakness is love. I have never received the love that I knew I was deserving of as a child from my mother. This ain't got nothing to do about no man. It's from my mother. So I used to search the world looking for love in various places and doing various things. And I never really knew the true definition of love. So I created this narrative of what I thought love was, and then I got attached to other people who created another narrative of what love was. And because I didn't know what love was, I gravitated to areas and stayed in places that God didn't desire for me to gravitate or be in. So when I came to Christ and I learned what Christ's love was, I was then able to use discernment to say, hey, this isn't love. Or, hey, this is love. And that's in every category of my life. I was actually able to go back to some other relationships, whether it was friends, my own mom, stuff like that, and redefine whether or not the love you had been giving me was really love, because now I was aware of what love was because God has shown me it. So that's my area of struggle, like love. And so of course the enemy is going to be like, well, your God wouldn't give you a husband that's like this or like that. And I mean, you said he would give you the desires of your heart. If you were in him, you're in him, and he sent you a marriage like this, like, ew, like, you should just go back to dating. You should just go back to this. You should go back to that. He knows what areas to taunt me in, just like being a mom. I'm not able right now in this season of my life to go and fulfill my career and my purpose the way I would like to. Go back to what I said earlier. Sometimes what we feel we should be doing is not what God is asking you to do. And we start putting this unnecessary pressure on ourselves to where we're like, well, God, I want to do this and I want to do that, and I'm not doing it. So like I'm behind and blah, 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 blah. And God is like, you are right where you need to be at. And see, the goodness of God is that it's a struggle for me, but it's a struggle for me, but it's not it's a struggle for me because I struggle with those thoughts, but it's not something that will make me believe that that is what it is, if that makes sense. So it's a struggle. The enemy knows to attack that area to try to get in my head, but he also knows she's getting stronger in this area. So I'm going to try to find a new tactic, because the mom thing, she's not moving on that anymore. She understands that her God just isn't withholding anything from her. He's just giving her what she desired. I desired to be home with my baby in this season. I said, God, I don't want to choose between work and raising a baby. I want to be able to be home with my baby. And this is the first kid out of all 5 of my children where I have not had to work, and I have been able to solely focus on my daughter without choosing between survival or being a mom, because both things mattered to me. But surviving, the money just didn't overrule the mother thing. And it didn't overrule it because being a bad mother is a generational curse in my family. My grandma wasn't good to my mother. My mother was not good to me. So it stopped with me. So whatever I got to stand on 10 toes to be a good mom, I know when I get to heaven, God's going to say, job well done, my good and faithful servant. You steward so well over that generational thing I told you to do. You steward well over being a mom. That was an issue in your family. You stood 10 toes down behind it. And because of that, I'm going to crown you with royalty. You did your part. And the enemy know that that's a target area for me. So he'll be like, oh, well, I thought you're in purpose and you want to do this and you want to do that. You can't even go nowhere without your baby. You got to take your baby. You can't even go work because like you ain't got nobody to watch your baby. Like he'll try to taunt me in those areas, but because I know who I am and I know what God is doing, that's why you got to be in tune with God. And that's why God is not something to do. God is is your being. God can't just be something you do. God can't be, oh, I'm only running God when it's bad. I'm only thank God when he giving me a promotion. I'm only thank God when he giving me something good. God has to be your entire being. Literally, from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. There's some moments where I'm throughout the day where I'm like coming in encounter with somebody who got a slick mouth. And I used to have a slick mouth. You want to take it there, baby? I'll take it there with you. But because I ain't like that no more, I have to say, God, guard my mouth. I hear him. To be sure you ain't going to let it slide, because either you can handle them or, I can handle them too. What you want me to do? And so, I have to pray and I have to say, God, allow me to not let this consume me. Don't let me speak off of emotions. Let me respond the way you want me to respond. That God is my being. I even say, God, I need some money. So I got this, I got that. I need this to be paid for. I need that to be paid for. I need that. Then I say, God, please tell me what it is I'm doing in this season. If it's not vacation, and if it's not hanging with friends, if it's not none of that, God, if it's not none of that, I'm okay with that. Just let me know. God is literally in my entire being. He's not something to do. And that's why you got to have God as your being and not something to do. Because if not, you're not going to be able to grow spiritually in the areas that the enemy is going to use to attack you. And so you'll be questioning every single thing based off of the results that you get and not off of whether God told you to do it or not. God's good, our good, two different goods. And so, you know, I'm in this season right now with this marriage, and God is like, do you trust me enough to give it back to me? And at first, I was like, well, God, I didn't hesitate on giving it back. I just reflected on how good it was at one point. And I was like, because this ain't his first time he asked me, right? Because God sometimes, now that's where it's at too. God sometimes, Summer. Did you give her the phone thing? Sometimes God will ask you multiple times with that one thing because he knows that he got to test you at certain levels. He going to test you when it's real good. He going to test you when it's real bad. He going to test you when it's in between. He going to test you when it's he going to test you in the moments. It's not going to always be, well, it's real bad. God going to be like, oh, can I have it back? Or it's real good. God, can I have it back? No, he going to see where you standing at in different variations throughout the process. He'll be like, so this ain't my first time when it was really good. And it was, God was like, will you give it back? And I was like, God, I don't want nothing if you ain't in it. If you want it, come get it. If it's yours, it's yours. Like, I'm to that point where I have somewhere to be, and I do not want anything attached to me that is not going to help me get where I am going. That was when it was good. Now it's going really bad. And so it's like, God was like, will you give it back to me? And I'm like, at this point, come and get it. Okay, don't wait till tomorrow. Come today. Come get it. And so God will ask you to see if you trust him enough. And now don't think too that because God gave Abraham Isaac back, that the thing he asked for you back, he gonna give you back. He might not give you that thing back. Let's say, for instance, he might ask for your red car back. But when he give you it back in a later season, it might be black. He might ask for this marriage back. But in a later season of my life, he might bless me with another marriage. He might ask you for your job back. Later in life, he might bless you with another job. A different career in a different field, making different money, doing different things you ain't even know you could do. There's just sometimes where the exchange is not going to be what you gave. Like when he exchanges it back to you, it's not going to be what you gave. It's going to be more. So even if he does give you that thing back, let's say he give me my marriage back. He said, I'll give you your marriage back, but it's going to be more fruitful now. I'll give you your job back, but it's going to be more fruitful now. He not giving it back and then it's just at the point where it was when he took it. No, it's multiplied now. And so sometimes God will give you your thing back, but it'll be more fruitful. But other times he might not give you back the thing you was hoping he would give you back, but he will give it back to you in another way. So I want to ask you, is there something in your life right now, if God asked you to give it back, whether it's good, bad, whether it's in between or whatever the case may be, do you trust him enough to give it back if he asks for it back? And sometimes it's hard to reason with, because I know sometimes it's a lot of things you'll say. I could say, God, but I love him. Help her. Where's her milk? God, I love him so much. Please don't take him. Sometimes we'll do that too, and God be like, if you just give it to me, I will be able to do what I need to do with it, and you won't even have these problems that you're having right now. And I'm thankful to know that I'm okay with God doing what God does. I'm okay with God taking my marriage if that's what he desires to take, because I don't want to be anywhere God does not desire for me to be at. I do not want to be in anything that comes with more weight than God requires for me to carry. So in this season of my life, I'm okay giving God things back, even if it's my good or his good. I know that even if this does not turn out to be what I wanted it to be or produce what I was hoping for it to produce, I know through everything I've learned and everything I've sought the Lord on in this season of my life and on this and in this journey that I've been on since being married, with this specific assignment, I know that I've learned so many things that is going to equip me for where I am going. So if God wants it back, it is his. I'm so thankful to be equipped for where I am going. I now know how to navigate something similar to this if it ever comes my way again. I know what to look for. I know how to handle this. I know what I need to do. I know all of these things because God has equipped me with this experience for me to be able to do so. But just because I did not get the results that I was looking for, and because I didn't get what I wanted, I got what I needed. And because of that, I am now ready for whatever is next. And because I love God so much, I'm so thankful that God don't look at what we want, because sometimes we think we want what we want, and then when we get it, we really don't be wanting it. So I'm so glad to know that even though I'm still here and I'm still in this season and I'm still enduring what God has asked me to do and I'm still taking it on or whatever, if God asks me to give it back to him, I am okay knowing that that was a season of my life, but it was just a chapter in my book. It is not my story. And sometimes we don't let go of things because we're scared, we're shame. We're like, oh my God, well, I said God told me to do this and it didn't do this or do that. We withhold to these things because we don't want to be perceived a certain way to what, to the eye of other people. But when you know who you are and whose you are, you do not care. I do not care what people think about me. If my marriage does not work, I do not care what people think about me. I've learned what God has needed me to learn. I've allowed him to teach me what he needed me to be taught. And for that, mama, hey, here, look. And for that, I am now equipped for where I am going. And so I'm have to cut this a little short because I got to tend to the baby. But I just want you to know that there's going to come some moments in your life where God asks for you to give him back something that he has promised you, something that you worked hard for, something that you deserve, to see if you trust him or not. And remember that sometimes the things we define as good is not God's good. And sometimes the things that we are wanting to produce something will produce a total different way. But also when you know who God is and you know that the Bible says, I do not have plans to harm you, but to prosper you, then you understand that God did not do anything to set you back, but just to set you up for greatness. So I need you to go look in your life and dissect and discern and to be so in tune with God that if God asks you for something back that he gave you, you will have enough courage, enough faith, and enough belief to believe that he will give it back to you, even if it's another way. And I want you to be that rooted in God so that when you always go throughout this life, that you solely focus on God and knowing that God gives us things because he desires for those to be resources, not our source. So if God ever asks you back something, if God ever asks you to give him back something that he's giving you, know that he'll give it back to you when you need it again. So I just want you to sit back and ask yourself, is there any area in my life that I'm resistant to giving back to God if he asks for it back? And if so, God, help me grow in that area to fully trust you so that if you ever ask for it back, I would have the courage like Abraham to give it back and to believe that you will restore it in another way, even if it's not the way I thought you would. So until next time, this is your girl Samantha, and this is my podcast, Naturalize.